Hi, this is George at SalesPad. In this video, we're going to take a look at customizing layouts in SalesPad GP. One of the main advantages of working with SalesPad versus working with a standalone installation of Dynamics GP is the fact that SalesPad allows users to customize the screen layouts pretty much in whatever way they need to set it to be more productive. GP doesn't allow users to modify the interface very easily, and often those changes require customization or modifications of code in some way. In SalesPad, modifying the user interface is a very easy thing to do. So we're going to take a look at customizing layouts, what that looks like, where can it be done, and how that makes your user experience a lot better when working with SalesPad. So I am in the customer card right now, and what I'm going to do is provide an example of how we can customize a layout quickly, and then we'll come back and take a look with more detail and discuss it. So for the time being, what I'm going to do is select one of these options to create a sales document, and when that comes up, we have the sales document header here, for example, at the top, as we normally do, and I am going to right click anywhere on the sales document header, and we see this menu that comes up, which gives us this section, this option, customize layout, and I'm going to choose that. So when I do that, this pop-up screen comes up, and I see that I have a list of many different fields that that comprise the sales document object. So pretty much everything that belongs to the sales document header is going to be listed here. And then we also have a different tab called the layout tree view, which is going to contain that in a more structured way. So for example, you see that when I click at the document properties, you see the whole section is highlighting behind this window. And for example, if I click here in the arrow and minimize that and I go to the shipping address, now I get all of the group in the shipping address selected. So just a quick way to exemplify how to modify the customer layout is I'm going to switch the shipping address completely to the left. Perhaps for some reason I find it more convenient to work in this way and have that information display there. So I can simply make a selection like that. I can also take a field that I don't see currently on the screen and drag it. And as you can see, before I let go, if I just hold on to the mouse, SalesPad is kind of giving me a preview of what the field's going to look like when I dropped the mouse, the button in the mouse. So I can continue to hold that and drag into any section of the screen I want to position it in. And as you can see, I can actually go across groups of fields. So I can, right now I am under the additional properties, but I can easily go into the totals, and if for some reason I wanted to see the customer PO under that section, I can easily just drop it there. So I am going to hit this reset layout button, and note that what that's going to do is actually reset the design to its factory design, if you will. So I'm going to close it, and then make a parenthesis and explain a little bit more about how we actually achieve that and a little bit more functionality that we can do through that customization window. So first, let's cover the basics. In order for you to have access to customizing the layout and have this option available to you, you need to have security, you need to have permission assigned to your user that you have the ability to do that, those modifications. So if you don't see that option, maybe you can talk to your SalesPad administrator, and he can then go into the security editor, and he would have to go in here. And for example, we have different places where you can actually change customize the layouts. I'm going to list them for you here. You can customize the layout in the sales document entry screen in the header, and then within the sales document entry screen you can modify the addresses tab and the user fields tab. Also, you can do that in the customer card, and that applies to the header, the nodes tab, the user fields tab, and the equipment tab. In the vendor card you can customize the layouts as well, and you can modify the vendor header, the nodes tab, and the user fields tab. And then you can also do that on the purchase order entry screen, header, addresses tab, user fields tab, and lastly in the counter sales screen. So here within the security editor, I'm going to search for sales document properties. And when I get those results, you see that one of the options under sales document properties is to allow the screen layout customization, and that's set to true, but you may have it set to false. In order to change that, again, you're going to need security from your SalesPad administrator. But you would simply look up for that particular screen or module, and then they're going to have a property similar to this one, which is just a Boolean setting, and you can flip it to true. And then after doing that, you would save. And as any SalesPad change within the security editor screen, then you would have to log out. Save your changes, log out, log back in. And then when you log back in, that's typically the point when changes to the security settings are applied. And then you would have those changes reflected on your next session. So I'm going to close this, and I already have permission. Let's come back to customizing the layout here. And now let's take a look at a few things that we didn't mention on the first time that we looked at it. First is we have a drop-down box here, which actually lists all of the sales document types. And then right next to the document type, we have a document ID. So notice I have all my order types here, but then within those order types, I have the IDs. So the standard order, RMA, and those are, as we know, just different configurations for the sales document in GP. So what this means is that you can actually keep a layout saved per document ID. So if you, for some reason, had the need of having your standard order look a little bit different than your RMA order, then you can do that. Now, another thing I want to mention is that on top of being saved per document type and ID, all of these customization files actually get saved per SalesPad user. So everyone can have their own user experience if they wanted to potentially. All of these customizations get saved on a file in a place in the computer, and we have a document published online that actually shows you in case you want to delete those files or perhaps change all of those files and make the modifications needed, and then you can export those files and apply them to other users. So there's a few things that you can do at that level of complexity as well. But typically, most users are just going to be fine with modifying their own screens and making any modifications. So we saw that this screen lists all of the fields for that object. So for example, we're working with the sales document. These are going to be all the sales document header related fields. If you were on the PO or in the customer card, then of course the fields that you would see listed in this screen would be related to that object. So one thing that is important to keep in mind though is that these fields are going to also contain your user-defined fields in SalesPad. So you can create user-defined fields in SalesPad, And I'm just going to head over to the sales document editor and show you. I'm gonna say no to save changes. But so here we have the sales document, for example, and this is the sales document header. And within SalesPad, we have the ability to create user-defined fields, which can be of various different kinds, right? And I'm not going to go very deeply into user-defined fields because there's another video for that, which goes over the intricacies of setting up and customizing sales user fields. But I just wanted to mention that all of the user fields that you create within this window, then you may have, you may use and have access under the customize layout screen, and you can join your user-defined fields to that section of the screen. So I'm gonna go back to the customer card, and for example, if I navigate to the user field section of the customer, I see that I have several different user fields here. Some of these are image-based, some of them are true or false, and I have date-based user fields, etc. And all of these user fields are going to appear in my list of fields that I can customize. So for example, here I have a customer logo or a customer points. Let's take a look at that. And here's that user field. And one of the nice things about SalesPad is that I can actually drag those user fields to the sales document header or the customer header, for example. So again, I can simply drag it to that section of the screen. I'm going to take the customer points user field as well, and I'm going to place it here, for example. And then if once I'm satisfied with those changes, all I have to do is press the Save Layout button and confirm my changes. Okay, now let's take a look at a few options that we have within the customization window. I'm going to close this, and now I'm going to work with the User Fields tab. So we're going to be changing it down here. I'm going to right-click, choose customize the layout, and then I'm going to switch to the tree view. So what I'm going to do now is create groups of fields. I'm going to select those three, and all I'm doing right now is pressing and holding the Shift button on my keyboard to select multiple. You can now actually also press and hold the Control button, and then if you were to click on another field, two fields down, you can actually select multiple that way, and they don't have to be sequential. And once I have my field selected, one of the things I can do is right-click those selected fields, and I can say I can tell it to hide the text. And what that's going to do is just hide the text on those fields. I'm going to hit this undo button, which is you do have undo and redo buttons to help yourself with making your changes in the customization of your screens. We should also have the ability to group these fields. So I unselected that one because it wasn't giving me the option to create a group when the fields are not sequential. But now that I do have them selected like that, I can actually select the group option, and that's going to create a group within those, within that selection. I'm going to undo that and show you now another option. When you right click, you can create a tabbed group, and that actually puts it, gives you a nice little tab. You can add additional tabs, and then for example take those fields and drag them there. So you can play with the options that you have within this customization window. You can add some of these objects such as splitters. You can add labels, you can add empty spaces. Let's take a look at adding an empty space, for example, in the first tab. So we see that we have 3 fields, and if you introduce an empty space, you have a way of putting space there and just giving yourself, just place all the fields wherever you need them and get them to display how you want them. Also, notice that when you right click, there's some options to introduce size constraints. So what this allows you to do is let you specify the ability for some of these fields to adjust to certain widths and heights, or just size freely. So when I do that, for example, notice that it makes the field a little longer, and actually I can place these empty spaces on the right as well. And what that lets me do is then it lets me free size the size of the field so that it doesn't look so long like that. So now I can make it look nicer. And I can grab, for example, this empty space, and if I place the empty space for all of the within the right, for example, I can control the size of all of my fields within this screen or within that tab. So these are just some of the controls that you have available to customize your user interface. So feel free to check out this feature of SalesPad, and I hope this video was instructive. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at support@salespad.net, or you can always visit our site at www.salespad.net, and we have documentation for this and other topics there as well. Thank you for watching.